Hi, my name is Jeremy Bonner. I'm currently a computer science student graduating this semester. I decided to do my research on mass incarceration and to see how things were across the board over the United States. Why, may I ask? Well, as a black man in America, this is an issue that faces my community every day. Even though it might not directly affect me as a person, it's still an issue that I care about and want to see changing. So, I decided to do a little research, and I found out that as a US president, black men face a 1 in 3 chance of a lifetime likelihood of imprisonment, which is a staggering numbers compared to all the rest. So, with a little preliminary information, I found out that the United States is the world's leader in incarceration, with numbers of 655,000. So, I did a little more, and I found out that over one quarter of the world's entire population of prisoners is located in the United States. I guess you have to like people up, huh? So, I did a little more, and I found out that between 1980 and 2015, the number of people incarcerated in America increased from roughly 500,000 to over 2.2 million. So the thought is that the number of people incarcerated and sentenced to prison for violent crimes have increased during the periods of when crime rates have declined. So I decided to find out what is the relationship between violent crimes and incarceration rates. So here's an example of my data set. I have jurisdiction, year, prisoner count, violent crime totals, murder manslaughter, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, property crime totals, burglary, larceny, and vehicle theft. Even though there's a lot of different information about different data I have, but I really want to focus on violent crime totals. So instead of using the actual total column, I decided to break up into the different types of murder and violent crimes. So I did. So I decided to prepare my variables. My response variable is the prisoner count. My independent variables were murder, manslaughter, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. And my nominal independent variable was jurisdiction. So, with that in mind, I decided to do a multivariate model using the pairs function to get to know my data and how it correlated with each other. So you can see that prisoner count is at the top, uh, and then murder, manslaughter, rape, and robbery and aggravated assault are as follows. And each of these pretty much have a pretty strong correlation. They don't really uh, have they're not really all over the place. They tend to be positively um, incrementing and everything like that. So I wasn't really sure which was the strongest, so I tried to use my eye, and I decided that maybe murder, manslaughter, and aggravated assault were the two strongest as they correlated to prisoner count. So to verify that, I went forward and decided to check using a correlation. So I use a Pearson's correlation coefficient, which measures linear dependence. And not to my surprise, all of them are pretty high. However, murder, manslaughter, and rape were the two highest that I had to choose between. So my personal preference was to go with murder, manslaughter, because I feel like that's a more of a heinous crime, and you probably will get better numbers using this one versus any other crime that I came across. So here's my linear model, and in my linear model, it looks like as the number of murder and manslaughter charges increase, so does the prisoner count. And you can see it's pretty clustered with 500 and 1,000, but as it gets towards like a 1,300 or 2,000 or 2,500, it tempers out. But based on the jurisdiction, which are the colors that you see, like more crime happens in different states, and as some states still have pretty high numbers in those areas. And another way to look at this data would probably be a good chance to see the different states and how they compare against each other with the different crimes. However, I did not do that. So I decided to more residuals to see, what was really this if my data was normally based or not. So I did a Shapiro's book test to see to test normality, and you can see that it is normal based on the small p-value. Also, if you look at my histogram, you can see that based on the bell-shaped curve, the test error terms are normally distributed. And you can see that the curve is pretty bell-shaped and there's not much to it besides that. So I decided to check my um, linear model summary. And I just could see that for the summary that I have my estimate, my p-value, and my r-squared value. All things I can translate and see what they mean going forward. So with my estimate, I can see that for every one murder, manslaughter, on average, there are approximately 79 people in prison for that crime. And for my p-value, since the p is low, I'm rejecting the thought that there's no correlation between the murder manslaughter and the variable prison count. And lastly, for my r-squared value, approximately 89% of the prisoner count can be explained by our model due to r-squared value. So, as I was doing research, I found out that part of the reason why mass incarceration rates jumped so high was because people were getting locked up at alarming rates for drug offenses, aka war on drugs. So, in this graph, you can see that the number of people in prison and jail for drug offenses from 1980 and 2017. So on the left-hand side, you have 1980 with 19,000 state prison and 190,100 for state prisons. For federal prisons, you have 1980 4,700 and 2017 78,800. And for jails, you would see 17,200 for jails in 1980 and 184,000 for 2017. Huge disparities. So, I also learned that people were going to prison for longer rates, which attributes to keeping the number of people incarcerated so high. Furthermore, if I would do further research on this topic, I would like a data set that contains crime types of people serving for drug offenses. As well, I would like to have a data set that reveals how long someone is serving for a certain crime type. Because like a lot of these people are serving life sentences, but how do I really know how those affect the crime types they're affected by if I don't have that data? And then, in conclusion, so based on the analysis, you can see that there is a strong linear connection between violent crimes and incarceration rates. However, based on this data alone, we cannot conclude that why incarceration rates are so high, especially for the Black community. Therefore, going forward, if I were to receive data on drug offenses and sentencing rates, and the ones that include race as well, I believe I can create a better model to depict why incarceration rates are at the level that they are today. Also, going forward, in conclusion, I would like to see how United States, since they're so high, the leading contributor for incarceration rates, how they compare it to countries like Sweden or India, and what they do in the way they fight crime and have their different issues handled. So, thank you for coming to my presentation, and I hope you have a great day.